อเสียงปรบมือให้กับโจเซฟสมัยบรักเล่ครับ
สวัสดีครับชื่อโจเซฟเป็นนักศึกษาที่Mahidol University for anyone that's following along. I'm just going to give a quick presentation about maybe the big picture view of this clean energy malarkey that we've heard so much about. So why would you choose clean energy? I typically hear the three main points. The first one being sustainability, second being power grid diversity, third being reduced environmental impact. Power grid diversity is a big deal. If your power goes out, if you lose a certain source, then how are you going to keep up? You're going to bring in some clean energy, or you're going to bring in some renewables. Reduced environmental impact speaks for itself. Encouraging information. What we've got in Thailand is a whole lot of solar potential, more than anywhere else in Southeast Asia, mostly localized in Udon Thani in Isan province, that's where I'm from. And you've also got increased investment. More and more people they're turning around to look at solar power and they're thinking, that's low risk, that's low maintenance, I'm getting a good return on my investment. And so far we've made some seriously good progress. Development into solar power, like I said, and also hydroelectric dams. They make over 500 megawatts all over the country. And this is a good part of why maybe, just maybe, we're going to see a positive change here. But there are some issues that need to be addressed. Some of them are addressed in the proposed power development plan from Chunchom Sankarasri and I think Chris Greason, sorry. The proposed power development plan is really a three-pronged approach. Now, the main points tend to address some of the problems in the current Ministry of Energy's power development plan. Now, the first being reduced dependency on imports. Thailand actually imports a lot of its electricity from outside of the country, especially from renewable sources, specifically hydroelectric dams in Laos, Myanmar, and Cambodia. Some of these are proposed, some of these are already built. And the second would be apart from reduced dependency on imports, you've also got a desire to move towards renewable energy. That will be solar power, that'll be wind power, hydroelectric, instead of the current plan, which promotes building coal power plants, natural gas power plants, fossil fuels that we aren't going to be able to renew in a human timescale. And the third, probably the most important, because the PDP estimates Thailand's domestic economic growth is way, way, way over budget is what we have now. The proposed power development plan wants to bring down some of these electricity estimates so that we don't increase the overdraft to from 15% all the way up to 36%. As far as I know, that's the rough estimate that I have right now. Although there are some problems, the harsh reality of it is Thailand's power comes mainly from natural gas and coal. That's a chart from 2014. It might be a little bit out of date by now. But if you look at that, 3% renewable energy, we've got some serious work to do if that's going to make up any decent chunk of what Thailand needs going forward. And this is a trend that happens all across the world. You see all of this. Coal, traditional biofuels, crude oil, natural gas, hydroelectricity making up a decent chunk up there at the top, nuclear electricity making up a large portion, places like France. But this breakdown hasn't changed in 30 years. And over the time, you've seen increases in the amount of power that we need. The harsh reality of it is clean energy may be sustainable, but urban development is not. We're going to increase the amount of power that we're going to need over and over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. What the PDP looks at is only a 20-year forward span. So that's just Bangkok over time. And the power grid diversity is a bit of a moot point. I talked about that before. If your natural gas and your coal goes down, well, natural renewable sources should be able to pick up the slack, right? Wrong. Because you just have this. 3% is not going to be able to supply the entire country's power needs in any situation. And sadly, central planning does come into it. The power development plan from the Ministry of Energy, this is an increased reserve margin. We're looking at a massive overestimate of Thailand's economic growth, which means that these 20 gas power stations and 9 coal power stations, they're producing electricity that most of the country probably isn't going to use. And of course, the environmental impact. When we look at hydroelectric dams, we think of clean power. It's water, the water flow. That's what we use to make the electricity. It's perfect. It's not. Because the Mekong Dam, the Mekong River, the Sayaburi Dam in Laos is actually outside of the country. If we can outsource the environmental impact of this power, then we don't have any reason to try and pursue a cleaner way. So, input and output is what we need to think of. If your input is clean but your output is dirty, you have problems. Fidget spinners, does anyone remember those? A whole bunch of people were selling them, buying them, collecting them, playing with them, and now we've completely forgotten about them, rotting away in a storage cupboard somewhere. We use our energy to produce things like this because our industrial society does not have moral guidance. All it is a system meant to grow and expand, protect itself, and gradually, over time, consume. And Ted Kaczynski is actually one of my heroes. He understood this very serious problem. We have no moral guidance. There's two ways that we can go. First way, decelerate. We pull everything back. We go back to nature. All of you people will be working on farms. Does that sound nice? You're going to be bringing your groceries home in a wicker basket. You're going to be riding a horse. Doesn't sound attractive to a lot of the people in this room, right? That'll be work every day. Acceleration. Accelerate to technology. That's probably the most likely outcome. We are going to increase building the system. We are going to increase the amount of industrial production that we have. We're going to keep consuming energy and keep consuming natural resources until there is nothing left, and only then can we reform our society. Now, what does this mean for everyone in the audience today? Well, woven baskets. I like to use the example of woven baskets because that, at your paksoi, you can go down and buy a woven basket. It'll rot. After you die, that plastic basket is still going to be around, and which means someone else can sell it. But it doesn't take into account the issue that we need to reduce the amount of energy that we need in general. The proposed power development plan may be a palliative measure. I think that if we're going to start talking about how we need to decrease the amount of energy that we use as a society over time, instead of growing, we can use this plan. So Chunchom Sankarasri and Chris Greason have the right idea there. Bring it down. And these are my references. If anyone would like to ask some questions afterwards, I'd be happy to talk to you. But that concludes my presentation, and thank you very much. ขอบคุณมากครับ